What's up, guys? Welcome back to another video here on Muddy Beards 4x4. Today's video is going to be all about skid plates. Do you need them? What skid plates I have on my Jeep? We're going to go from the front to the back, go over all the skid plates that I have. I have a brand new transmission skid that I'm going to be putting in some reinforcement tabs in there to make it stronger in the center. So stick around. So the first thing you gotta do is decide what kind of off-roading are you doing? How serious are you? Is it just a dirt road, daily driver? How much upgrades do you want to do to your Jeep? In my case, I want to do as much as possible. So there are a lot of options as far as skid plates, aftermarket skid plates for your Jeep. So you need to pick one and basically stick with it, because most of the skid plate systems, transfer case, engine, all that stuff is all integrated together. So if you mismatch different brands, things like that, they're not gonna fit together perfectly. So basically, you gotta find one that you want and go with that. So starting at the front of the Jeep, you can see right here, this is the steering box skid plate. Now this one is a Genrite off-road one that I've had for probably 7 years. And you can see it's taken a lot of hits. So this is, I believe, 3/16, and I've had to modify it. You can click up here and watch the video where I install my Hydro Assist and I actually stretch the skid plate. This whole center section right here has been stretched. So this is not something that you normally have to do. So this is really important because as you can see here, if all these big hits right here that are basically bending this, if that would have been on my steering gearbox, probably wouldn't have survived and you'd be stuck on the trail. So this is very front of the Jeep. It sticks down the steering gearbox, so this is really important. Barnes 4-wheel drive actually makes one. They're darn near the exact same thing, but Barnes 4-wheel drive one is like $20 cheaper. But whatever you decide to go with, you're gonna want to have a good solid steering box skid plate. Although not really a skid plate, side note here is diff cover. Sometimes they do make a skid plate, so if you have a factory diff cover, you can have a bolt-on skid plate on your diff cover. But this actually is a Dana 44 Barnes 4-wheel drive diff cover, and as you can see, this thing has been mangled pretty bad, and it holds up just fine. I've had no issues with it. It's been great. And another note is some people have skid plates on their lower control arms to protect their joints. Those are options. Some companies sell those. I don't have those because it's kind of built into my bracket that's on the frame. You can see a little bit right here that how smashed up this is. Rocks and things. So if this is all open, you're going to be sitting on top of your joint. This is my factory track bar bracket, lower mount. Well, it's not factory, it's 1/4 inch steel, and it's my old one that I used under the axle before I moved it up here on top of the axle. Engine skid, this is one of the last skid plates that I got. And as you can see here, I'm super lucky. I backed up, or I don't know what happened, but I almost lost my oil pan. And it could have been a really bad day. So engine skid plate, super important, was one of the last things I ever did for some reason. And I don't have it on right now, so I'll leave a picture on the screen. It is on the floor right here because I have been working on this transmission and this new skid and everything, so it's off. We're gonna skip the transfer case skid for now because we're gonna work on that at the end of the video. So another thing that you can get is this is a pinion skid, because these 4 to 9 inch low pinions, see, they kind of hang down a little bit, and you can see this thing has been worked over pretty hard. So imagine all of these rock hits, and this is 1/4 inch, it's just like crumpled, and all these rock hits, but on the yoke. So that would be bad news. I also can see how thick this is right here. I also added a 1/4 inch plate on the bottom of the housing and all over the back. I'll show you that in a second. So we're on to the back. So gas tank skid for a TJ. You can see I don't have a factory style gas tank. I have videos on that too, so but you're gonna have to go back a while. So this is a Genrite aluminum tank and aluminum skid. So let's get under there, I'll show you. So this is a 19-gallon tank. It uses the factory fuel pump, fuel setup, and I think a factory one is 15 gallons, this one's 19. And oh, you can see sweet gouges in that pinion guard right there. But these gas tanks are stupid expensive. This one I think is like $1,400 or something like that. And luckily for me, my buddy Nate from Dirt Lifestyle, he has the diesel TJ. He did not need a 19-gallon tank for diesel fuel, so he sold it to me for much cheaper, which is why I now have it. So here's the back of the skid plate. You can see it has been worked over pretty good over its long life, and it's still holding up pretty good. I haven't had any issues with it. And you can see right here too, I've armored the whole back of my Ford 9-inch, and basically it looks weird here because I filled this with that insulation foam to fill in all the gaps inside of here so water and stuff didn't get in and then rust it from the inside. And I just haven't cleaned it up very well and painted it, but that's what all this is. So you absolutely do not have to go crazy and buy a $1,500 gas tank skid plate. The aftermarket gas tank skid plates are like $299. Barnes 4-wheel drive has one. Genrite Off-Road has one. Just a factory style, heavy duty, high clearance skid plate. All of them, the Genrite one is obviously more expensive, but they're virtually the same thing. There's so many companies that make skid plates for Jeep Wranglers. So I'm not going to be able to cover them all, and I don't know all of them. So why don't you leave down in the comments below what your favorite brand of skid plate is and what skid plates you like and what you use on your Jeeps. Although not a skid plate, I think bumpers, front and rear, are probably one of the more important things you guys need to think about as far as approach angle, departure angles, tire clearance. This is the Pritchett Canyon bumper from Barnes 4-wheel drive. I have the matching one in the rear, as you saw me install that in a previous video. As far as approach angle and departure angle, this has so much. You can see it's a very stubby bumper. It just barely sticks out. The frame is right here, and it just has this section right here. Comes with holes already drilled for lights to be mounted. As you can see, I have a ton of tire clearance, which I didn't have on my old bumper. And I ended up cutting the bumper at King of the Hammers in 2019 because my tires were rubbing on it. So this has a crazy amount of approach angle and tire. You can't really get much more approach angle and tire clearance than this bumper unless you have no bumper, because literally the frame is right here and right here. And make sure to hit the link in the description to get 10% off Barnes 4-wheel drive, or use the discount code MuddyBeards at checkout if you are interested in these sweet bumpers. Moving on to the body, another thing to think about is fenders. Now, fenders do get very, very pricey. These are basically factory fenders that my buddy Nate from Dirt Lifestyle made for his Jeep a long time ago, and I bought them from him a long time ago, and I've been running them for, I don't even know, 5-6 years at least, and they have been absolutely great. They have been in a rollover, not on my Jeep, on Nate's Jeep a long time ago. You can see this is some marks from the rollover, but fenders are very expensive. I did have factory fender, and I cut and trimmed the fender. I'll throw a picture up of it. And it did work pretty well for a long time until I was able to get these from Nate. And I will be going to a high fender soon where I'm going to be cutting this, because 40-inch tires on this Jeep, the TJs, I'm struggling with my up travel. It's very limited in order to not rub on the inside and on the frame and on everything. My whole front is very limited on my steering and my up travel because my fenders do not quite fit, because these are based on a factory fender with a factory inner fender well. So they look really good, but they don't really give much more clearance than a factory style fender. Moving on to a windshield, A-pillar armor. I bought this after I had to install a new windshield because I smashed up the other side. If you guys follow my channel or my Instagram, you've seen my old windshield. It was pretty bad. So this is another thing to consider. These are not super expensive, but hopefully it will protect and keep trees off of my windshield, and I won't have to acquire another windshield and paint it and everything, because it was a really big pain. Rock sliders. So these rock sliders are Smitty built rock sliders. I've had them since 2011, and I really do like them. So for the trails in Washington, it has this tube step that comes out, which is really great for pivoting around trees and stuff. But as I transition to doing a lot more rock crawling, not so great for rock crawling, because as you can see here, I totally smashed it into a rock. The whole weight of the Jeep fell down onto this slider right here, this tube, and just smashed the whole thing. And you can see my door doesn't open. There we go, I got it. If you guys have any ideas on boat sides or a way to fix this in a TJ, I'm gonna have to fix this. This whole tub is smashed in right here, and I'm gonna be having to replace these and fixing the tub, and then some sort of boat side that's gonna give me more clearance right here, basically probably cutting the tub and building a, you know, a rock slider off of the frame, something that's going to be really strong. It's low priority at this point because the Jeep still works with it, so I'll get to it eventually. And obviously rear fenders, same situation. Rear fenders, tire carrier, all this stuff adds up, gets very, very expensive. This is the matching for the front that Nate made. I have modified it, cut it down, and it used to go all the way down here, but because I stretched the rear of the Jeep back farther, did my 4-link, I ended up having to cut this and make it shorter. And there's a lot of stuff I could clean up and make it look nicer, but it's functional and it works. Low priority because this works great the way it is. I'd rather spend my money on stuff that makes it wheel better, perform better, and not really on how it looks. So I'll show you briefly. This is a spare tire carrier, swing away, and I have my high lift jack here. This is probably going to be going away because I no longer run a spare tire. So probably in the next month or so, I'm going to be taking this whole piece off of the rear because I don't need it, and I'll be relocating my high lift mounts up to here, and the high lift will be mounted up here, and I'm going to build a whole rack system back here for storage and for my air compressor and my onboard air system. That'll be a future video. So guys, I am known to bend things on my Jeep, and I want to reinforce this skid plate so it doesn't bend in the center here, because that's going to be, I would say, the weaker spot of it, even though it is 1/4 inch and it is bent and welded, and it is as strong as a skid plate can be. I'm going to put in a rib that reinforces across the center of the skid plate there, and then I'm going to do the same thing on this side. So everything is painted up and the gussets are welded in. I didn't fully weld all the way down. I thought that was probably unnecessary, so I did both sides of the edges and then kind of crisscrossed this side, that side, this side, that side, this side, that side, all the way down on both sides. So these gussets should help keep the center of the skid plate from bowing out from the weight of the Jeep dropping on top of it, because of the places I like to go four-wheeling. There's lots of big rocks and lots of really tough lines that are really hard on your components. I want to show you where you can see the rib right there that I did, and kind of that notch in the transfer case with those two tabs come down. I want to make sure that it was in between those, so in case anything bends or moves around, it's not going to contact the transfer case there. So before I end this video, this is going to be your tech tip for today, is these nutserts that go in the frame. These are notorious for stripping out. I've replaced these at least one time since I have owned it, and In order to save these nutserts and these bolts, you're going to want to use anti-seize every single time you take them in and out. You don't want to just hit these down with your impact, call them good when they get tight. You don't want to end up like me, like when I was at Brown's camp and the whole side of my skid plate actually came off, and that was really not good in the middle of the trail. Actually, Ryan, Rubber Ducky TJ, saved me. He had an extra bolt in his Jeep, and he actually bench pressed this up, and I was able to get it tight. So what I do, anti-seize, hit it down with my 1/4 inch impact until it's all the way tight. That's all the way tight. And then I hit it with the torque wrench, 65 foot-pounds. So that's it. And if these nutserts are starting to go bad and the threads are stripping out with this, I couldn't tell because it actually went up and it stopped. So when my nutserts went bad, I didn't even know, but until I was trying to torque them down. I tried to torque them down. Instead of getting, you know, my pop at being torqued, it would just slowly keep going and it would never tighten down, and eventually it just pulled the threads right out. So pay attention to these bolts right here, anti-seize, and torque them 65 foot-pounds, factory spec every time, and you should get a lot longer life out of them than I did. Well, that is going to be it for this video, guys. If you guys want 10% off Barnes 4-wheel drive, like I said, all the stuff on my Jeep is Barnes 4-wheel drive. Use the coupon code MuddyBeards or use the link in the description. That will automatically give you 10% off. If you want to follow me on social media, I am at MuddyBeards4x4. Got a website, muddybeards4x4.com. You can buy shirts, stickers, use our Amazon store, stuff like that. So until next time, guys, we'll see you on the trail.